again, compartmentalize, but you get to sort of separate off those first 3 games of the season, reevaluate your team, and it's almost a second shot at opening day. And weirdly, the way the schedule falls, it's the Steelers again, so it's almost a, hey, we got a 3-game look at our team here. We know what we're good at. We know what we need to work on, and then we come out for almost opening week part 2 here, and now you're into the rest of the season. But I think that's a little unique dynamic to the start of this year's season, just for the Browns in general.
Yeah, it is a little bit different. I didn't really like that when I saw the schedule, saw that our bye week was so early, because like, oh my gosh, we really don't need it this early from an injury standpoint. Usually you want like week 9 or 10 so you can, rest some people up. In this case, it could actually help if Jordan Cameron's not able to play. I think he's kind of on the bubble. Then you have the extra week, and maybe he can come back full strength for the 4th game. So just for that guy specifically, Jordan Cameron, the bye week is coming at a perfect time, especially if they decide to sit him out. I think it would be smart to sit Cameron out again, just to make sure that by the time he comes back after the bye, he's really ready to go. But for one thing I should mention before I forget, if you talk about the Ravens defense, you know how very tough they are. They've kind of reloaded with Elvis Dumervil. He had a couple of sacks last week. They got C.J. Mosley, who's a really good, strong linebacker. And it's like, if there's a weakness, it could be the secondary, especially because they're really good cornerbacks. Lardarius Webb is hurt. So you may see Hoyer and his receivers like Miles Austin and Andrew Hawkins, maybe you take a few shots deep at who the Ravens have left out there, because that's not really, if there's one weak point in that defense, I think it might be the secondary. I wouldn't be surprised to see Hoyer challenge them, and maybe that might be the difference in the game as well.
And that's something very interesting to look for there, because so much focus, as you said, a lot of times the smart teams game plan to go the opposite way that you would expect, with so much focus on the physicalness and the defense and the running and all of that on both sides. You're right. Shanahan could be, and you know what, speaking of kind of putting 2 things together, Shanahan could be looking that way. And one thing I've wanted to bring up throughout the show is listening to Kyle Shanahan talk this week, and really over the course of since he took over the job, is you can see, and I don't know how many of you guys have caught on to this as well, each week, and I don't just mean in the words that he uses. A lot of that's for public consumption, but if you know how to read between the lines, you can see the difference in the way Shanahan views Brian Hoyer now than as he did when he first, I guess you'd say, kind of, I don't want to say adopted him, because he was already here, as he kind of rolled into him being the quarterback. And there's a difference. And to hear him talk this week about how their approach in the offensive philosophy has kind of been, I don't want to say tweaked, but evolved in the beginning part of this season, because Brian Hoyer is so competitive. He goes, man, this is a guy I can sit down with side by side, and we're both right there on the same page, same concepts, thinking of ways to do the same thing, and I like that, because I did not get that feeling from Shanahan early, whether it was having a toy in Manziel and just wanting to be able to unwrap him and play with them. And I get that as an offensive coordinator, especially if you think that he is talented. Some people do, some people don't. So it could be that there's the unknown of, hey, who's this guy? He's never been able to catch on anywhere. Why am I being given this, this run-of-the-mill quarterback here? And so I think that's different too in how you'll gel, because if the coordinator, and this is not, hey man, whatever's going to happen is going to happen. I love to use the phrase, we're not building statues, but when the offensive coordinator believes in his talent, and especially the quarterback specifically, that does change things, because there's a difference between, well, I hope Whedon doesn't screw this up, and, well, at least he's not going to screw this up, and, man, this guy's going to go in the trenches with me, and we can go do some damage. Let's go to work together. And I'm really starting to feel that from Shanahan, and that familiarity he's starting to get with Hoyer. I like that, man, and I think that in general, the offense as a whole will start to gel from that. So just a different dynamic of things there that I've seen with that. And Brian Hoyer, talking about things that were said this week, I really loved his point. I mentioned it earlier with JK about how the Browns are full of these guys, much like him. Maybe they weren't undrafted this season, but there's a ton of guys that were undrafted, that were, low round picks, that were let go from other teams. And, you obviously can't have 53 of those guys, because there's reasons that guys are drafted in the early parts of the draft. There's talent differences, but having a chunk of those guys on your roster gives you a big core of guys that will lay down and do anything you tell them to do, and they'll give you every drop and every ounce of what they got because they worked harder. They had to do it just to get there. So I think that actually what some people may have looked at as a detriment, and maybe long-term this season, the talent depth will start to catch up to the Browns there, but early on, I think it's not a detriment. I think it's the opposite. I think it's a plus for your team because you've got maybe a little extra fire in that belly, a little extra burst of guys trying that much harder. Like Hoyer said, I'll take a crew of every guy like that over a crew of just first rounders any day, because I'll tell you what, I think my group can keep up with the other group.
That's a good point. And I think one person who's really a big kindred spirit for Hoyer, just like that, one of the main people I think he's talking about is Andrew Hawkins. I mean, here's a guy who was sort of the number 3, number 4 receiver for the Bengals. The Bengals had a chance to pay him more money to keep him, but they didn't. And the Browns went out and said, we want you, and we got him. Only at 5'7", but he's showing that he can be, I know it's very early, there's a couple games, but so far he's looking like a very good starting wide receiver. And I kind of can't wait to see what he does against the Bengals, because he's really going to have something to prove to them there. But you're right. This is a team that isn't made up of all the blue chippers, but they've got a lot of grit, and this is going to be a situation where we'll see if they can come together. And if they could somehow win this game and win their first 2 home games, then you start to build something really positive, about saying this is our house and this is our new coach, and this is the place where we're not going to be pushed around, and which is just a giant step forward from we have in the back in the past few years, I should say. And one thing I think is really going to help is the fact that we beat the Ravens last year. We don't have to come in talking about this big long streak of losing to the Ravens and all this dominance by Joe Flacco. Fortunately, we took care of that last year. Of course, we didn't win anything after that, but at least it's going to help us this year to not have that giant gorilla on our back of not beating the Ravens.
Yep, absolutely. And every one of those division victories adds to that pile. All of a sudden, you start, that's how you did. Like I said earlier, you don't go from 1 to 3 without getting to 2 first, and so many times people want to make that jump. You got to do one thing at a time. And the next thing up, just like the Indians, they got to win these games one at a time. They got to compartmentalize each one and then move on to the next. And if you do that, at the end, it'll all add up together. And that sounds like coach talk, except it's the only way you can do it. And especially in the NFL, you can't look past anyone if you're a Super Bowl team. When you're a rebuilding starting block team, you don't look past anybody anytime. Browns have to, put all of their focus into this game here. Then you head to the bye week and you compartmentalize on that. I'm excited, man. Let me ask you, all this stuff we've talked about, and you brought up a couple of guys, I don't want to look past them real quick. You spotlighted a few guys defensively there, Elvis Dumervil. I mean, these guys will be a test. So far, that offensive line has held up good. That offensive line has done well. But you brought up guys that are going to be a test, that are going to try to get in there and get their hands on Brian Hoyer and disrupt the play action and continually harass him. Matter of fact, what did I see? Was it Greco that has not allowed, not just a sack, he has not even allowed a quarterback pressure. There's somebody who we talked about during camp and building all the way up to the season was just on a higher level than he was last year. So far, he has really been improved, but the entire line has to step up like that because, as you said, talking about Dumervil, talking about these guys getting after the quarterback, they definitely have the ability to do that, get at you, play after play after play, hit you, and that's going to be important too, keeping that pocket clean with those guys getting after you. Of course, running the ball, you got to deal with Nada, you got to deal with Williams, and then passing the ball, like you brought up, you've got Smith, you've got Elam, you've got guys back there to deal with. They're big. Elvis Dumervil particularly, if you let him get loose, man, especially they move him around and line him up with Mitchell Schwartz, he could have Brian Hoyer's head on a stick by the end of this game.
Right, they're going to have to definitely give, I think, Schwartz a little bit of help, or just really wherever Elvis is. And to take nothing away from Terrell Suggs and people like that, this is going to be a big challenge.
I haven't even mentioned Suggs. Suggs has been huge this year. Yeah.
Yeah. If they can keep Brian Hoyer's jersey because of the mud, but, clean, for not getting sacked, against this group, that'll really be a big feather in the cap. It's going to be a big test, but I think that so far the way that the offensive line has held up, I think that maybe not be perfect, but I don't see the Ravens getting like 7 or 8 sacks against them. So that's going to be a good test of just how good this offensive line is.
I'm going to put you on the spot here, Jeff Gorman, as we wrap things up. What do you think? What happens here? What's your prediction on this game?
Well, usually this is where I say, well, I know the Browns have stuff going for them, but, the other team really has a lot of strength, and they're going to unfortunately win. I'm sorry, but no. I think the Browns are going to win also. Yeah! I'm also going to pick the Browns to win. I think they're going to get, put 2 solid performances together. I think that the weather might be a factor. I think that it is going to be pretty much of a ground battle, a low-scoring game. And I think we're going to make like Tashawn Gibson last week. It could be a defensive play. It could be a special teams play. I think that's going to be the great equalizer that goes in our favor. And I think that we're going to gut this one out and win 17-14. Book it.
There we go. I actually had the score a little bit higher than you. I thought they'd win 24-17, but we're right in the same ball yard there. Man, when's the last time last year's notebook in front of me? It's been a while. It's probably been 6-8 Browns regular season games since you've had them even picked on the winning slate there, man. That's how you know progress is being made. Hey, I said the same thing. I can't remember. It was easily at least like maybe week 10, 12, somewhere around there last year. Last time I thought they would win a game. So, actually, no, I did think they would win that final. Yeah, well, anyways, we know how the season ended. But up until then, anyways. But all right, man, I'm with you. That's 2 of us. And I got a funny feeling Ruiz is in the same place with us here. We may be 3 for 3 on the panel on who thinks the Browns may pull this one out. I don't know if that's a good sign or the curse, man. We'll find out. But, hey, it's going to be a really physical football game. It's going to be a fun football game. It's the old Browns. It's the new Browns. It's the Art Modell Bowl on the shores of Lake Erie, baby. Can't wait. Jeff Gorman, not only do you have a Browns game to keep an eye on, but the Indians, tick-tock. We got a big 3-game series this weekend. When you and I do the Indians thing on Tuesday, man, that's it, man. We'll be staring down the barrel of whatever's left, man. Let's see where they go. What happens? Do they win them all?
I know there's going to be a big weekend. I said on Tuesday that in order to get the playoffs, they got to go 11-2 down the stretch, and so far they're 3-0. It could happen.
3-0. They've got to go 8-2, well, technically one of those is 99.9% of the way in the books there. Oh man,
right.
It's coming down to it. Jeff, enjoy the weekend. The Browns, the Indians. We'll catch up next week, baby.
Sounds good, man. Thank you. Have a good one.
You got it. Jeff Gorman. You guys can check him out writing for Browns101.com. He's on Twitter at Browns_101. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Ryan Ruiz from the Inscriber joins us. We'll get his 3 dog bones to victory. We heard about the Ravens and all the things they're bringing to battle. What do the Browns need to do? What 3 things do they need to do to go into the bye week at 2-1? Ryan Ruiz from the Inscriber brings them to you. His 3 dog bones to victory coming up next here on the Sports Fix.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
Throwing you the best sports commentary in town. The Sports Fix.
Guys, want to take just a second as we head into this break and remind you about the official business printing source of the Sports Fix, our friends at Signs and Ship. Signs and Ship, I'm telling you, Chris and Pam, they've taken care of me since day one, and they can do the same for you. Whether you're a small business that's already been established and you're looking to grow to that next level and expand your business, or perhaps you've got an idea that you just know is going to be a great business and you need to figure out how to brand it and how to promote it and put it out there, Signs and Ship is the place for you. If you need a logo, they can create one for you. They have a fantastic graphic designer. Business cards, signs, banners, yard signs, mobile advertising, anything you can think of that you need to promote your business, they've got it at Signs and Ship. The best thing about them, too, is each of their locations, whether it's the the home base here in Elyria, Ohio that I work with, or their spots in Virginia, Florida, and Pennsylvania. It's all local sourced. Very important to me because we all understand that small business is the lifeblood of the community. So check them out, signsandship.com, or call Chris and Pam today, 440-323-6060, the home office in Elyria, Ohio. Signs and Ship, quality printing at affordable prices.
It's the Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's Kirk Herbstreit from ESPN. Football has played a big part in my life, but football's also a lot more than just big plays, wins, losses, and championships. Football teaches young people about dedication, sacrifice, teamwork,